the first thing I wanted to talk about was Jay Thorell. I said it was Jay Thorell's recent article, but it's an article by Chris Ritter, actually, released on September 9th. I think that was yesterday, actually. Yeah, no, it's today. I don't know why it's dated today. I read it yesterday, so this is falsely dated. But this is about disaffiliation and the coming drop deadline. Somehow I didn't even catch it's not a coming deadline, it's a drop deadline. You're going to drop dead if you don't make it out by the deadline. So were you able to read this whenever? Okay, so how would you summarize this article?
That there's an end and it's coming fast. And if you don't get out, you're kind of stuck and there's nothing left.
So when we're saying there's an end to what?
An end to us. I say us, the evangelicals or the conservatives of the United Methodist Church, getting out. There's an end date, and if you don't get out, there may not be a getting out for you at the end of 2023.
Yeah. Okay, so prior to just a couple weeks ago, we had some disciplinary provisions, the main one being paragraph 2548.2, which had been used for decades for churches that discerned they were no longer happy partners in this covenant relationship, that they could exit with their property and membership in tow. The Judicial Council, we covered this last week on the show, discerned that could no longer be applied. The 2019 General Conference created a new paragraph 2553 that expires at the end of 2023, end of next year. That is now the only provision that can be used to exit the denomination. And that doesn't even apply to the central conferences outside of the United Methodist Church. So there was a central conference that voted to leave. There was a Judicial Council decision saying you can't do that. There are annual conferences here in the U.S. that have voted that they want to leave, and even though they are the primary unit of the UMC, and even though we had a Judicial Council decision making room for that, the Judicial Council said you actually can't do that because the General Conference never designed a method for you to do that. So hypothetically you can, but we never wrote down the method, so you actually can't. It doesn't matter what you vote. So here, Chris Ritter warns that the denomination is going to change. Hasn't yet in our book of discipline. The flavor of it already has and is, but after 2023, paragraph 2553 expires. That's the only way out. And he's pessimistic that General Conference 2024 is going to make another way out. So I highlighted one paragraph at the bottom here. He kind of does some explaining of what's going on. It was interesting. He used Nickelback as an example of you showed up to one thing and you're actually getting a Nickelback concert and you can only get out through the fire escape if you follow a certain process. Very interesting metaphor. But he says, if I'm right on this, the losers are traditionalists, that's conservative, evangelical, orthodox, we use these interchangeably, lulled into complacency. Now, when he's talking about that, I think he's saying, right now, we're being lulled into complacency by people saying, oh, we're maintaining the discipline, we're not changing the doctrine, conservatives, you have nothing to be afraid of. There are a lot who hear that. We're going to talk about that with the African thing. They're being lulled into complacency, he says. There is a lingering narrative among some Methodists that the United Methodist Church's teachings, at least on paper, are still orthodox and there is no reason to exit until General Conference acts. But the illusion that General Conference runs the UMC has been dispelled. So who's running the UMC if not the General Conference?
The bishops.
Yeah, the Council of Bishops.
Yeah.
That's what's being alleged by conservatives right now. In the face of certain division, institutional-minded Methodists are getting what they always wanted, an exit just wide enough to bleed off the most motivated traditionalists and their leaders. The door will then be once again locked. Does that sound like a conspiracy theory to you, or does that sound real?
It is not real at all. It is actually very disheartening. I mean, it's very true,
right.
But what we're dealing with right now is heart-wrenching.
Okay.
And this...
So you would say this plan is a real plan by the Council of Bishops, then?
I don't think it is.
Really?
I think that it may be a conspiracy theory, honestly.
Okay, so you think in 2024 design another way out, and that conservatives really don't need to be fighting their way out the door right now.
No, they need to be fighting their way out the door. So maybe it's not a conspiracy theory.
Yeah, when I say
know.
conspiracy theory, I mean not based in truth or reality, that
Okay.
this is not how it's going to be.
Okay, then there is not a way out in 2024. Is 2024 really going to happen? Do we know? No.
Oh, you
Right?
think they might even cancel
Right.
General
I do.
Conference 2024?
I do. I wonder.
So you're even more of a
they're-
conspiracy theorist than I am.
I'm
Oh
so
my goodness.
Sorry. You're going to learn so much.
So yeah, we were supposed to have General Conference last year and this year, and both times they canceled it last year because everybody was still very concerned about COVID. This year, because supposedly the African delegation couldn't get visas, couldn't get their vaccines, and I was digging into this again this morning. I hadn't fully appreciated. You have the Africa Initiative, then you have the group of bishops that just released their thing, and then there's another left-leaning African caucus. I can't figure out how big or powerful they are, but different ones. The Africa Initiative that I follow with Jerry Kula said, we're ready, don't cancel. But then I didn't see the institutionalist one that said, we think they're lying, we're not ready, cancel. So we've had this very confusing picture for some time. Everybody's been under the understanding 2024 is definitely going to happen, but you're of the mind that if the deck is not stacked in the favor of left-leaning Council of Bishops, that they're even going to cancel that one.
Yeah.
I had not heard that.
Yeah. I think.
Is that your own idea, or have you heard somebody else say that?
No, I've done it by myself, just thinking about it. Really, like 2020 was canceled. That was an acceptable closure, I think. You know, everybody was just in the face of COVID-19, and they were like, we don't know what this is going to be like. The borders are closing, so nobody could get here. So if we would have had it then, let's be real, General Conference wouldn't have gone in the traditionalist favor by any means, I believe. If we would have had it.
You don't think it would have gone into traditionalist favor?
I don't think it would have gone into traditional favor in 2020 without...
Really? Even after 2019?
Yeah, after 2019. I don't think it would have. I think it would have been a nastier battle than we saw in 2016.
Well, 2019 was the worst.
Well, 2019 was bad, but 2016
was pretty bad.
well.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Right?
Okay.
And so I don't think it would have been any prettier than that.
It would have been nasty, but I think
Yeah.
traditionalists, I think what would have happened, so what did happen was the Council of Bishops did not have a traditional plan prepared. It got submitted ad hoc on the conference floor, incomplete. It was adopted anyway, and then they wanted to correct a lot of the flaws of it to make it enforceable and fair. They wanted to have a much fairer provision than paragraph 2553, and liberals at that point stalled the whole process intentionally. You had a guy get up there, he said, these are all the amendments we've got, we're going to hold things off till the monster trucks roll in, because there was a monster truck rally scheduled immediately afterwards. So what got instituted was a very incomplete plan. I think if they had gotten together the next year, the conservatives still would have had the votes. They would have closed all those loopholes, designed a much better way to exit out, and everything would have been fine.
I don't know. I feel like the liberals might have stalled more.
There's only so much stalling you can do. So I remember when they finally called the vote on the traditional plan, that was a liberal bishop.
Yeah.
Couldn't put it off anymore.
Right.
So there's only so much that you can do once conference is in session
Very
to stall things.
Yeah.
And I think it's really a tragedy. I don't think there's any way they designed COVID to be released at that time, but they definitely did not let that crisis go to waste.
Right. Not at all.
And then for several years used it to, when people went behind the back of the Council of Bishops and negotiated the protocol for peaceful separation, this was something that they could not allow to happen. And so that's why General Conference continued to be canceled. They did not explore options of remote conferencing. And now they've designed, I didn't think they could do it. According to Chris Ritter, and I find myself sympathetic here, they've designed an ideal scenario where they get rid of the richest, most vocal conservative voices, and all that's left is poor, rural, outnumbered, bullied churches like me and mine.
Right. That can't do anything.
Yeah,
they're stuck.
And over time, what they're saying right now is, if you stay, it's a big tent. We're going to make room for you. It's going to be okay. We're not going to make you do anything you don't want to do. And then, is that real? You know, because I covered last week with James, when you have unapologetic conservative voices, look at the things that left-leaning voices say about them. Look at what Stan Copeland said about Mark Tooley. Look at the way that they not only impugn your motives, but speak to your salvation and say that you're this demonic presence that John Wesley is pissed at. If that's the sort of stuff being said right now, are we imagining that those voices will suddenly be nice once they finally have taken over? Is that a real... I think some people realistically expect that. Just, once we're secure, we'll be nice. Is that a realistic expectation?
No, not at all. I think that true colors have come out. And, a lot of liberal people are saying that to the conservative people. You guys are showing your real colors. You're being nasty. You're not telling the truth. But the face of the matter is, look at what's actually going on. The evangelical movement is being pushed out of, John Wesley's doctrine is being pushed out of the United Methodist Church. And I think that's a nasty bit of it. And these people are being nasty now. I don't think that's going to change when everything's secured. I think it's going to probably continue to be the same because the true colors have been bled out. Yeah. And here we are.
Yeah. To imagine that. Well, it's like when someone has a troubled marriage and they think, oh, we just need to have a child and then everything will come out right. And that's not how relationships work. If you're not good already, to imagine that things will be better if you just shift something without dealing with the foundational disagreement. Well, it's a fiction. I mean, I understand children thinking that. But where are the adults in the room? Where are the people that actually read some church history or some human history and understand human nature? We imagine, what I try and do on this show is say, we're all human. We all have these natural proclivities towards self-interest, self-justification. Can we at all have a conversation where we're not doing that? So I'm trying to bring the conversation to, here are the assumptions that conservatives are bringing in. Are they valid assumptions? And I think so far we're finding there don't seem to be many. I mean, I'm sure there are hysterical voices that are running around saying the sky is going to fall. But for the most part, concerns seem to be well warranted. And it seems odd at this point not to have concerns.